So, what exactly is the Blech Effect? Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore. I hope you're having a good day today and and surviving whatever it is we're going through in 2020. But one of the benefits of being in a quarantine or lockdown, or most of us are spending more time at home, is the variety of movies coming to release on VOD and iTunes. It really is a treasure trove of incredible independent films. And I'm fortunate enough to talk to a lot of independent filmmakers who've got movies coming out, including David Greenwald, whose movie, The Blech Effect, is now on VOD on iTunes. It's on everything. You can check it out. This is a remarkable documentary, David, that I can't believe you were able to get this made. How did you first become aware of David Blech? And can you explain who David Blech is?
Okay. I met David Blech at my son's Little League game, and he was standing in the corner, very quiet, in a dirty white T-shirt. And one of the other fathers said, "Look at that guy over there. He used to be worth $500 million, but he lost it all." And David was someone who was a pioneer in the biotech industry, and he started biotech companies when biotech was just starting.
It's interesting because what you learn about him through your film is that he was responsible for so many of the drugs on the market that have had a profound effect on tens of millions of people, if not hundreds of millions. It's really incredible. But the story of how he became worth $500 million, that could be a documentary unto itself. But then how he lost it all is just an insane story. How did you gain his trust enough to be able to, first of all, have him reveal all of this? And not only that, you really become intimately involved with he and his family. I mean, you clearly spent a lot of time with him getting these stories. How did you gain his trust and getting him to tell you all this these crazy stories about his life?
Well, it came. I gained his trust over a long period of time. So during that Little League year, after seeing him every week for a couple months, we started talking, and he gave me a manuscript of an unpublished book that Oliver Stone had optioned to make a movie out of. And I read the book, and it was like really fascinating. And he told me that the film was going to be made, and I was so excited to see this film. And the season ended. I didn't see David for a couple of years. I ran into him on the street one day, and I asked him, "What's going on with the film?" And he said, "Well, the option lapsed, and they didn't make the film." So I said, "Well, gee, we should make a documentary out of it." And at first he was a little reluctant. I ran into him again, and then I said, "Well, look, I'm going to come over next Thursday, and we'll start shooting." So David, he really wanted to tell his story. He's like bipolar, and he's a gambling addict, and he's someone who lost hundreds of millions of dollars. But he's very self-aware of his issues, and he thought that by telling his story, he could help other people. As far as back to gaining his trust, I think like any documentary filmmaker, you gain trust over time, and through mutual respect. And I think in the beginning, I would just go over there all the time. I was there every day for weeks, months, and I think after a while, like all of us, all documentary filmmakers, I became invisible, and I was just there, and they were happy to tell their story.
Well, in particular, what I found touching about the film was David's relationship with his son. who you learn, I mean, he has some disabilities that are challenging, that he has to deal with, and how that all comes out. It's really heartbreaking. So clearly, in a way, you kind of became a member of the family for him to be that revealing to you, not just about his financial, rise and fall, but also the troubles he had with his family.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to the trust thing, I think part of it is like a love for the subject matter. I mean, I really care about these people. They're very complex people. I think everyone has problems, but their problems were more severe. I mean, their money problems, their family problems, their problems with mental illness were just a lot more severe than other people's. So. Um, I forgot the rest of the question.
Well, it's I mean, I think that just speaks to just gaining trust. That there's so many personal details that you learn about his life, but it's just amazing. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone that had such a rise and fall worth nearly $500 million, and that now basically just getting by, trying to sell assets just to stay afloat. What's interesting too is what you document in the film is he may end up going to prison, and I was amazed how you were able to get audio from the courtroom. How difficult was that to pull off? You didn't film in the courtroom, but there's audio that's heard.
Right. Actually, the truth is that we hired like an animator who drew those pictures, so they're not actual courtroom pictures, and there were actors actually playing the voices in the courtroom because we couldn't get access to the actual recordings. But I was there that day, and I made sure that that it was a very accurate portrayal. And most people who see the film just assume that these are the real drawings and the real recordings, but I have to tell the truth. They're not. We made them.
Well, it's not. Look, I mean, I assume it's an accurate portrayal from the court transcripts.
100%.
But it's pulled off so well. I'm like, oh my God, did you sneak an audio recorder in the courtroom? I mean, it was very well done. So bravo to you. I'm curious how people have reacted to the film that have seen it, because it's one thing that struck me watching your film is no matter how bad any of us have it, this guy's really got it bad. The gambling addiction is thankfully something I've never struggled with. I don't know anyone personally who struggled with it. I believe it's a real disease. But wow, to have to gamble with your fortune for some sort of rush, being worth that much money, and then having it just melt away, I think is crazy. So I'm just curious. My reaction upon watching the film was like, wow, no matter how bad things are for me, not as bad as this guy.
That echoes what a lot of people's reactions were. People would come to the edit room when we first would screen rough cuts, and their reaction would be, well, gee, after I saw this film, I feel so good about my life, because I realize how far, you can fall. And I think, it's a rags to rags story. And like I said, David is very aware, and he wants to sort of share the story with people so that other people might be able, having similar issues, may be able to help themselves.
Well, he's very brutally honest about his life, and I think if any lesson, any takeaway that I had is, it's like no matter how much money you have, that's not the stuff that matters. The stuff that matters is clearly family, and I think that's at least perhaps a realization he had, and maybe you helped him lead him to in the making of the film.
Well, one thing I'd like to bring up, when we talk about David and his $500 million, he made that with his brother. So the $500 million was theirs. And because David was such a wild gambler and just did such crazy things, like once he actually bought 60% of the Fannie Mae stocks. So he just did this wild buy, and his brother just was freaking out. And at one point, his brother just couldn't take David's behavior, and they haven't talked to each other for 20 years. So David is a very complex person. He's done a lot of bad things in his life, but he also is a great father and a great husband. And part of the story is just a love story between him and his wife, and despite everything, they stay together. And
well, it's interesting because you do get to learn in the movie what the Blech Effect is, which is something that was there was an article about David Blech in a magazine, and they said that they sort of coined the term the Blech Effect because when he would jump on a stock, it would go through the roof.
It was the Midas touch.
Right.
I always think it was kind of like being at the horse races and just standing behind the guy who always has the right picks. People just followed them. David had a great eye for good science and good people, and he was able to. And once he believed in people, he just went all the way with them. And it's amazing how many people from these companies, like he started Celgene, which now is worth $37 billion. And when I talk to some of the scientists and people that worked at these companies, they just talk so much about how helpful David was at the beginning, and he would just do anything to help them get off the ground. Unfortunately, David, as soon as he had a successful company, he couldn't stay there. He would just get out and look for the next fix because it was all like an addiction for him.
Well, the movie is now available on iTunes, on video on demand. The Blech Effect, a really terrific, and Amazon. Yes, all of those things. It's a really terrific documentary. I want to thank our sponsor, Storyblocks. If you go to storyblocks.com/film threat, you'll get a deal on stock footage. Over 1 million clips are on this site. If you want to up your game on your film, special effects, music. And I also want to thank you, David Greenwald. Your film, The Blech Effect, is one that you definitely need to check out. Thanks for talking to us on the Film Threat Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Chris. Thank you.